All right, so everybody, welcome to the program, the one and only. I mean, I know this guy from all the way back in, was it 2004, 2005 from Detroit?
Two, it had to be 2002, because
Yeah,
the first ball there was in 2002.
it
I
was a
think
long time ago. It was
ago.
my very first ball I ever recorded. Detroit was your ball in Detroit. And everybody, this is Kage, Hervé, Léger, founding father of that house, one of the leaders of the West Coast Ballroom scene based out in LA. Kage, thank you so much for coming on to talk with us. I wish it was under better circumstances, but we have to jump into what transpired in Oakland over the weekend. This vicious, violent machete attack on two members of the House of Ebony, one slashed across the face, the other with a major head wound, a fractured skull, and two fingers almost sliced off. Barely made it through, but thankfully, because Dabrian Balenciaga was there, jumped into action and actually saved this guy's life, Casanova Ebony. So that's a mouthful of a weekend of violence in the ballroom scene. And what's so tragic about it, in addition to the victims and their injuries, is the fact that this is happening in a space that we are supposed to have safety and where we're supposed to be safe from violence in the outside world, but we are instead having to face violence from within. And I don't think anybody ever anticipated that when they created Ballroom. So just give me your initial reaction, Kage, to what you've seen.
And if I can be candid with you and just say, in my whole lifetime in ballroom, it's been quite some years, over 23, 24, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8, maybe 30 years into ballroom, not right? And when you begin to look at from what it was meant to be, and we can take it back to the early ages, let's not go too prima donna, but to understand what it was developed for and what it has become. And I think where we're losing it at is that throughout this whole tenure of ballroom, we forgot to reflect back on self, the love of ballroom that we're supposed to have for another brother or sister within that community. Regardless of what house you were in, I still loved you as a ballroom competitor, whatever that may have been. It should never get to the point where we're so mad at each other that this violence, violence is a part of everything, but where something was born out of sorrow and pain because we didn't have, so we made our own. And this is what we do to each other. So for me, it is problematic in ballroom that we have not done enough sufficient things to put in place to protect people at balls, number one. Number two, the accountability of the young man who has slashed folks is, you committed murder, basically, your attempted murder. Let me correct myself. That's attempted murder. You're going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's your thought? This is not me belittling this person. Where's your thought before even a machete? Like, I'm going to lose my whole life over a chop or because I didn't agree or I disagree, but I'm about to change my whole platform and everything that I believe in and being the best version of myself for a moment of horror that I could probably be put in jail for the next 15 or 20 years because it's more than one person, right? They find you guilty of slashing folks out here, they're going to give you a couple numbers and it ain't going to be one or two. You wield a weapon with intent. So right. That means you had to think about it and you had to go get it, or you brought it with you with the intent, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying the way it could look.
Mm-hmm.
I don't condone any. I'm not blaming either party for how it started.
Is it shocking to you that this even happened?
Considering the elevation of where let's go back 6 months and then 6 months after that. And I want you to begin to look at the geographically how fights would take place in the East Coast, and it would be in the Midwest, and it'd be something always big and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. See, these fights don't get smaller. They just keep getting bigger. And now we won't stop until we're burying someone, because we keep having a conversation, but nobody's taking any real action. There's no national ban list. And if it is, we don't talk about it. These people face are not posted up on flyers and say, do not let these people in this bar. We continue to talk about this stuff, but when this stuff happens, we don't do nothing. But how about things like that? You ban them from barroom, or you remove their status in barroom. That type of stuff means you don't love us. You don't love us. You can't love that community and slice up a couple girls and then come back like it's okay. Like, who thought that was okay? And who's going to sign off on that shit? And say, well, that's okay. They had a reason. No, you don't. Will Smith smacked somebody, all right? What did they do to him? What happened to Will?
There's consequences, yeah.
What happened to Kanye? We're seeing reflections of things that should take place in our society when they happen. And what we don't do, we sit back and we want to help build narratives of why that could have happened or why they did what they did. That's not the fact. The fact is, we as a community have to put our foot down, and we need to do it real quick, because somebody is going to die.
Kage, I talked to Fenice Ebony earlier today. He was the slashing victim, and he named his attacker as allegedly Corey Gorgeous Gucci. Are you familiar with him? Do you know him at all?
Yeah. I mean, I've and speaking on behalf of Corey, I've never had a problem with Corey ever. You know, I think like all judges, he may chop the girls a little bit more harder than others. But other than that, I personally never had a run-in with him, a conversation with him.
Is he somebody that you would expect this from?
Did I expect that from him?
Is he somebody you would expect? I mean, you know, there's some people in ballroom, when you hear of certain things and you realize who's involved, you kind of go, yeah, that's to be expected. Did you expect him to do this?
It wasn't shocking to find out that he was in a fight. To be wielding a machete was something different, right? You know, we know who the kids in the community is who kind of throw their weight around, you know, and known for just you know, that integrity piece, right? Or whatever that may look like. I'm not saying he was a bully or anything of that nature there, but I'm kind of saying that he can hold his own in ballroom, right? And his reputation doesn't precede him. Everybody know who he is, right? So, you know, many times that I've met him, he's either been on a panel or, you know, across from me, and we've never really had words. So I can't speak on his character, right? I can't speak on what was going through his head. I can't speak on it because I didn't know him like that. I knew of him, and so our words were very little. So that's just what it is, you know.
Is he based on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the West Coast Alliance. You called for an emergency alliance meeting. Has that meeting taken place yet?
So I will be 100% honest with you. What's going on with the alliance again? That meeting is getting ready to take place. Actually, we have we're supposed to meet on Wednesday to discuss that. They wanted to get the facts, get everybody's side, give everything cool off. You need at least 24 hours before you decide to make some decisions on anything that's going to possibly happen. That information will be shared with our chair board member, as well as our vice chair members and members of that congregation. And then they're going to look at those things and make a decisive decision based upon the evidence that they have.
Well, what are some of the options in terms of this person continuing to participate in the West Coast ballroom scene? I mean, is there a movement afoot to ban him?
Well, absolutely. So there are rigors in place to support those things, and those were some of the things that we did get done in our last alliance. So what would be the protocol if this happened? Well, if that happened. So those things have always been in place. Have we actually used them? Well, this will probably be the first time that we actually see some bona fide authority for the West Coast to make an example of what looks good. So that's what's on the table right now for the West Coast.
Okay, so there's a possibility he could be banned, or I don't know, suspended, I guess is another word.
Yeah, they're right. I can't.
indefinitely.
Yeah, I can't speak to what would happen based upon, the agreement of the alliance. The alliance will always do
Right.
things that are fair, give everybody an equal opportunity. I do
Yeah,
think some folks may have to recuse themselves from it just because of how close they may be with the other entities to make it a fair process. That's just my only concern. But other than
right.
that, they do a good job.
Well, as an alliance member, do you think in this case banning is appropriate?
With all the circumstantial evidence, then I would say yes. You know what I'm saying? I
Okay,
only say that just due to the fact that I don't know the pure facts, right? It doesn't mean that
right.
I agree with what happened to any of those victims at all, period. But we need to know the full story.
Well, we know two people were stabbed. I
Absolutely.
mean, that's
Absolutely.
isn't that
Absolutely.
enough?
No, you know what? I'll be very candid with you. It is enough, right? But it's still in a court of your own people. You still have to be able to listen. And I think in a society, we need to be able to listen to both sides. I'm not agreeing with any of the behaviors whatsoever,
Mhm.
but there's a conversation that needs to take place that says, okay, why did this happen? What caused this to happen? See, we can't continue to ban people and put them out, and we're not changing behaviors. We don't talk about that in ballroom. We talk about ballroom culture, but we don't talk about ballroom culture behavior that's accepted, and we know what that can look like versus, say, hypothetically, a beautiful film queen who appears to be this beautiful film queen, but you're giving me something different than that, and now you're disrespecting me. And if I say something to you, then it's going to be I'm disrespecting a femme queen. And I think sometimes we in our powers use those different powers and them different levers. And then when somebody come at you or do something to you, it was, oh, why did you do that to her?
Well, let me switch gears. So you're open to the idea of banning Corey as an individual, but my understanding is there were other members of his house who participated in this attack in some way, and not using a knife, but in a physical way, attacking the victims involved here. Should the chapter there of Gorgeous Gucci be banned from West Coast Ball participation also?
I mean, we got to look at the facts. And the
Mhm.
facts, whatever the facts is, and I'm sure I believe in this West Coast system that they're going to get it right. And I'm putting it out there for everybody to hear. I believe that they're going to get it right. I think they're going to do the right thing. And I support the West Coast Alliance, right? Because I'm a part of that.
Okay.
So I can't be part of the institution that I can't say that I don't trust that the people who are there can't get the job done. I believe that they will.
Okay.
I think the right verdict in this situation will be made, and all parties will be subject to some disciplinary levels of that based upon that participation. I think that's what's
Right.
really going to happen. And if it comes down to the house being banned and that happens, then that's what it will happen. If it doesn't come down to that, then based upon the facts, then that's what it'll be.
One last question I have, because again, you're one of the leaders there on the West Coast of that alliance, and you talk to the other leaders on that alliance. What are you hearing from your fellow House leaders on the West Coast and even beyond around the nation? What are you hearing about what their thoughts are on this violent incident?
I mean, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Around the nation, it's a disgrace. I'm gonna be honest with you. California had one thing that they was holding on to, and I thought that was that piece. I thought that we had kind of figured out and got it right, and wanted to be a model for what ballroom could possibly be, because we didn't have them type of tragedies going on. You would see them in other places, but had not you ever seen it in California. And so for it to happen, it tarnishes your reputation of at least trying to be coherent with ballroom and hold it to some type of standards. Now you become just like everyone else. And so I say that to say that, California, like any other city, we got some growing to do. We're going to go through our pains. We're going to lick our wounds. But at the end of the day, I think we will get it right with regards of holding those responsible, and at the institution that we have, which is our alliance board, will do the right work. And I pray that they do. I hope I don't have to come back and say, that is not the story, but I do believe in all the power of all the folks that are here, including our icons here, are going to do the right thing.
Well, Kage, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me as one of the leaders of the West Coast Ballroom Alliance. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys can bounce back from this black eye. I mean, this is obviously a stain.
Oof.
I think it's a stain on the entire ballroom. I mean, it happened in Oakland, it happened on the West Coast, but really it's a really bad representation for the entire scene all across the country.
It hurts us all, right? Because ballroom is no longer just, you know, we're integrated now. We're not like we used to be back in the 80s. And you know, you have a ball, you wouldn't know who had a damn ball. Now it's you know, the publishing companies hear about it, the television companies hear about it. You burn your brand as soon as you're able to get into a door. You give them something more negative to keep pulling us down with. I mean, look at all the great work that ballroom has done. Incredible, and we'll continue to do that. But we have to stop this process of uneducating our people in ballroom. Like, something's going on in ballroom that we haven't paid attention to, or we just care about cash categories. We don't care about the mentality of the individual, their mentalness. Are they there? Or we talk about it barely, but we don't really, you know, we're not having conferences at these ball things about who's doing drugs in our houses, and that real conversation of who need help for real. We walk around all of that other stuff and do all those other things as if we're equipped to be able to do it. And a lot of people in ballroom are unstable. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth. And there's some mental illness is going on, but we're not addressing it. So this is what's going to continue to happen. I'm going to tell you like this, bruh, I'm 55 years old. I ain't about, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
These kids not going to make it to that age. They're not going to make it. I just wish the best for them. I just want to thank you for having me on. I am concerned and worried, and I do believe that the West Coast is going to do the right thing, though.
Kage, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You take care. You're looking younger than ever still.
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
We'll talk.